and you can see that it's at this ATR. Now, the volume between this bar and this bar, there was a major difference. A lot of buyers came in on that bar, but they haven't been able to take out this high. Typically, that tells me that crude's going to go down. Does everybody understand that? And I'm going to bring over multi-charts for a moment. So this one, you've got a potential magenta peak on. It's not come in all the way yet, but there's a potential there. Then when you go down to the 720, you do have a magenta peak. It's not fully pulled back to this ATR at 55.86. You do see that the 180 is in a congestion area, so it could go back and test this high here around 58.56. And then you have a congestion dot down here at 56.34. When you go down to the 45-minute, this is what I'm talking about. You've had a major increase in buyers, but that has not resulted in a new high. Okay? So price is making lower highs, but the volume is making higher highs. Does everybody see that now? That's usually an indication that the market will go down. It's divergence. Price going in one direction and volume is going in the opposite direction. Does everybody understand that concept? There was a binary that was available for roughly about $25 of risk. So I did the demo trade on that one. You can see I took the $57 area, okay, and I am negative 10 contracts. That means that I believe that price will either close less than or equal to $57. Okay? And I think that's it. That's all the information on the screen anyway. Does everybody understand that one? Now, some of you may think, because I did a trade yesterday on the Dow for the Dow to go up because it was at an ATR on the 45-minute chart. And it looks like it's the same trade today, but it's not. Okay? Yesterday, when I did the trade, you see that we were at the ATR here. Buyers had stepped in and controlled the low, and I knew it would go up from there. This looks like the same trade setup, correct? But it's not. What's different on this one? Okay? My higher time frames are different. Okay? Number one, you've got an ATR right up above you on the 720. You have an area of resistance above you on the 180. You also have an area here on the 1440. Now, as this made new highs, the volume was diverging. Okay? That's typically what we get right before a magenta peak. So I could expect a magenta peak here. Little things will make a difference in trading. Okay? And these are very small things that you should have noticed. Okay? You've got this line here on the 720. You also have the ATR. You also have it on the 180. Now, I'm not expecting the Dow to go up. Well, if I'm not expecting it to go up, I have to go short, right? I don't see any indication of a short right now because you're going to have to break this ATR. Not really conducive environment for trading. Yesterday, okay, I had all of this room here. Today, I don't have that room. It's a small difference, but it's significant when you're trading. Everybody understand that? If you do not have sound, click the telephone, then join via computer. It's this icon right here that gives you sound. So even though the trade setup on the Dow looks the same as it did yesterday, when you actually look at your higher time frames, it's not the same. Does everybody understand that? And if you had any question, you've got short divergence, short divergence, short divergence. Okay. This is telling me that we may see downward action today. I shouldn't be too eager to jump into these markets. Do y'all understand that? I have no idea, Stuart. Late Friday morning. Let me check it. Between the 45 and the 12, Dave? Or between the... Which Buddha setup are you referring to? This is 12:45. Go back and look over here. Let's see. Didn't get it there. Yeah. You got it after 12 o'clock. Actually, I think came in almost at 3 o'clock. And then the next one that came in was about 3:30. Yeah, it's this magenta peak that you're talking about. It was too late in the day for me to even trade that. So I'm usually done Fridays by 11, 12 at the latest. Yeah, Friday's not my big trading day. Yeah. It did come in. Get my chart set back up. All right, let's get a look at gold this morning and see what gold's doing. This is saying, potentially up. This is telling me it's in congestion. This one's telling me it's in congestion. Not too eager on gold this morning. I think we're probably going to make a magenta peak and it's going to come down on the 45-minute. That would be the bounce off of the ATR on the 180-minute chart. I think whether it breaks this ATR today may be a deciding factor in gold. I just don't like it when my time frames are not in agreement. And I'm not saying agreement, I don't like to trade when there's no agreement. Okay. Let's get a look at the NASDAQ. Now, the NASDAQ on the 180, the ADX is at 68. Okay. So that's pretty high. Okay. 70 is considered to be overbought, correct? Because it's a blue line. All right. You have a blue line here. It's right at 70. Okay. And you have had a significant volume divergence. I would be anticipating a magenta peak on this, okay? That would push it down to the ATR, which is around 43.90. There is no code. So what I would be anticipating is the Dow to actually go down today. I'm going to try to focus on my charts. If y'all ask questions, I'll answer them shortly. It may reach up here and tag this congestion dot area on the 1440. I doubt it because of the ATR on the 720. Do y'all see that? So if you look at this, you've got an area of resistance here. You have an area of resistance here. This is overbought. Okay, that tells us it should go down. All right. You've got divergence on the 180-minute chart. Does everybody see that? I'm really not liking a long position today on the NASDAQ. Okay. Does everybody understand what I'm seeing on the NASDAQ? And again, if you're just looking at the 45-minute, it looks like, oh, it's going to go up. When I look at these higher time frames, this is not the trade I want to take. Okay? All right, let's go look at the Dow. I think I've pretty much went over it, but I'll go over it again just to show you. And what's bothering me about the Dow, overhead resistance, okay? You're not overbought on the Dow. You are on the NASDAQ, but not on the Dow. But the fact that we have two areas of resistance above us, not liking a long on that, okay? Any questions on the Dow? And again, it may go up, but this is not my trade, okay? If I enter this knowing I've got resistance right up above me, then I consider that a likelihood for me to actually be stopped out. Don't want to be stopped out. Everybody understand? All right, let's go look at the S&P 500. I haven't looked at it this morning, so. All right, on the S&P 500, we see that we have an area of resistance right around 2120. Again, ATR right up above us on the 720-minute chart, resistance above us over here on the 180-minute chart. You know, this is not something I want to go long on. In order for me to go long, it would need to break this area, and this area, okay? You can already see it's got strong volume divergence, not only on the 180, but also on the 720. Nah, it's not the best trade setup. I'm telling you right now. It may go up, but it's not the best trade setup. So out of gold, crude, the NASDAQ, the Dow, and the S&P 500, the only thing I would want to do is go short on crude. If you feel the need to trade, well, let's just use the S&P 500. S&P 500, here it is. The first thing I would look at, is there a cheap binary to the downside? Okay. And it would have to come in higher than this, would be ideal. So that number is right around 2087. Okay, we could get 2089 for $22 of risk. Okay, this is probably about as simple as it gets. It's 2089. Say place order, and at least you're only going to lose $22 a contract if you're wrong. Everybody understand that? And this is out all day. So even if the market opens and it pops up and comes back down, you would still be okay. You're about 10 points from price. Any questions on that? Is the audio okay for everyone this morning? Okay. All right. Um, if you felt compelled to do it, you could also do it on the Dow. You have to look and see what kind of prices you have available on the Dow. This is at 17,907. Okay, you could get 17,910 for 81. And I'm not giving out trading advice. I'm just showing you how I would trade the binaries. Let me put the lines on here so we'll know where they're at. The Dow is at 17,910. Well, flip. Let's take the lines off. Let's do 910 if I can get it to. It's about as close as I'm going to get on the Dow. Let's do another one for the S&P 500. EP. M15. It's slow this morning. We'll have to shut some stuff down. On the S&P 500, we're at 2089. Put it there. And let me close this one because I think this one's slowing me down. Okay. And let's do one on crude. Crude is at 57. I'm trying to close some of my windows because I'm slowing down a lot here. Yeah, stretch it out. All right, does everybody understand those? I'm always out of the money. I'm never in the money. Oh, you're welcome, Keith. I never go in at the money. At the money increases your risk. I don't do that. I didn't hold it until expiration. I think I was out around 11 or 12. Mika, what time did I talk to you? No, yesterday, honey. Not today. Wasn't it around noon? I talked to somebody. I just exited the trade. I think it was around noon. No, that was on the British pound, U.S. dollar. Let's see. This was the high that it made yesterday. And no. Oh, damn it. Where is it at? Come on. This was the high yesterday. What did you have just as that high was made, Dan? Look at your volume. I mean, would you not notice that? In volume divergence precedes a magenta peak typically. So I anticipated that price would go down, and I had more than what I risked for profit. Yeah, I'm going to exit. Well, just as you made a high yesterday, you had beautiful volume divergence. And I said, ooh, we're going to get a magenta peak. I got profits. I'm going to lock them in. So that's what I did. But yesterday, I knew I had room for profits. Okay? Today, it looks like the same trade setup, but it's not. And it's not because the higher time frames are showing that you have a resistance area. Is 56.50 on crude stretching it too much for the short? Well, I'd have to open up my report and tell you. Are you going out all day? Okay. Crude. And March 63. That's $1. Another dollar, maybe $2. So 56.50. You're gonna be pushing it. That's for sure. Because that's on the high end of the spectrum. Not one I would want to do. In fact, let's see. At 9 o'clock, you're looking at 44, 63, 68, 55, 49, 46. On average, it moves about $3.25. You're trying to come in at about $2.50. It's really on the high end of that. Not one I would want to do. Not with any market reports. I mean, it's just going to be an average day. So it's not one I would want to do. How you read or interpret your table, I'd have to go through most of them. It's not as simple as bringing up one. Let's see. We'll open up Crude again. This is just one of the charts I have. I'm not opening all the charts up this morning. So typically at midnight in January, crude moves 16 cents on average. February it moves 17. March it moves 16. April it moves 12. May goes down to 8. June jumps back to 13. 14 in July. 12 in August. 14 in September. 25 cents in October. November is 16 cents. And the highest month that crude moves is actually December at midnight for 29 cents. And you can do that for all of these time periods. The green that is highlighted is the biggest market movement after a major opening session. So, for example, London actually opens at 3 o'clock. The biggest mover is at 5 o'clock. Between 4 to 5 a.m. is when crude moves the most. The U.S. the cash market opens at 8 o'clock, followed by the U.S. session opening at 9:30. So between 9 and 10, crude has the most movement. Now, if you look at April, the average movement is only 63 cents. Again, December, the highest mover. Then Asia opens at 8 p.m. So your major market movement is 9 o'clock p.m. And again, December would be the month to trade crude on those particular time periods. Now, if you want the average that it moves, let's say from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, then just add these numbers and average them. Okay? I'm still working on that report. It's turned into a book, I think. I'll go over it one day. But I have broken it down by year, by quarter, by hour. So I can actually tell when the best movement is coming in. All right, while we're waiting on the market opening, let me go grab another cup of coffee so I can wake myself up. So I'll be back in just a moment. I guess I should put these in red to let us know we're short on these. There we go. Well, so far it's 30 pages, and I haven't even started putting in the market reports yet. No, now it's just a matter of actually writing it down. I worked on it about all weekend. What do you mean, Christian? Trading binaries almost makes it boring, don't it? Because we're already positioned for the day. Yeah, I know. They made it a darker blue. I like the new colors they're using. So I didn't like it before. I thought it was harder on my eyes. I guess it's just a color preference. How do I see the ES playing out today? To the downside. I don't like the upside potential at all. You got too much overhead resistance there. They could break it. I mean, they've been known to break it before. If you go over here, you see you've got resistance overhead here. Also see you have resistance overhead here. If you actually go and look at the higher time frames, you see it has a lot of overhead resistance. Just not liking it. It's all what? I wouldn't say it was all rigged. If it is, we have pretty much got the recipe to unrig it. I mean, I tell you, how many people have heard me say it will flip the ATR and come back and test the ATR? It did that here, went up to the congestion dot, broke it here, came back and tested it here, and then it was all up from there. Same thing on the Dow, broke the ATR, came back to test it, broke through it, came back to test it again, and it was all she wrote. This was a magenta peak. Then it went out and took out this high. When it did it, it made diverging volume. Came back to test this ATR. I just don't like all the overhead resistance I'm seeing. So I don't like to think about it being rigged because then it would skew my perception and I would have trouble actually doing what I need to do. 907. It would be here. We're about here on the binary on the Dow. On the ES, where are we at? There we are. 2088. Wrong one. This one. Which is about here. And then on crude, it's easy. We're at 57 even. Which is here. Well, you don't have to worry about stops if you're trading binaries, though. I can bring this one back over now because I have them marked on NinjaTrader. And put this one back up. And this is what I don't like. It's happening on most of the indices. You have overhead resistance here. You have overhead resistance here. You have overhead resistance here. If you feel like you have to trade, to me, the position would be to the downside. Then if you go to the S&P 500, it's almost identical. You've got overhead resistance here. You've got overhead resistance here. You've got overhead resistance here. Diverging volume, diverging volume. Not real ambitious to take a long position. So, crude to me looked like the best position today. And it looked like the best position to me today because you've got a potential magenta peak coming in here that will push it back down towards this ATR. You've got overhead resistance over here, overhead resistance over here, and this retracement has not completed down to here. So to me, it was down, down, down. Yeah, just go to the downside. Does that mean it can't go up? No, it could. It can do anything it wants to. You know, it's just, I don't try to think about it being rigged because if it's rigged, you won't never make profits. And I do make profits, so I choose not to think about it being rigged. You lose some, you lose some. That's all. Put this one back over here and we just watch this one. What about the higher time frame? I just went through the higher time frames. You got a ADX value of 72 now on the NASDAQ. It typically tells you it's going to go down. That is very, very true, Dave and Dan. Let's see if I add. Yep. See if it comes up. Might have to load 20 on there. No, it's still not coming up. It depends on whether there's a market report or not. You're talking about Asia session, right, Mike? Hold on a moment. Let me open that report. I gotta get some of my screens moved so I can see it. All right. And I mean, whether you know it or not, what you just asked is a big question. Okay. This is the Aussie dollar. January moves about $24 between 8 and 9. 22 in February, 22 in March, then drops down to 18 in April, 12 in May. June, July, and August, less than 10 pips. September goes up to 12. The months you really want to trade those during Asia, Mike, would be October, November, December, January, February, and March. And that's on the Aussie dollar during the 8 to 9 time period. All right. Then you go to the Euro US dollar. Well, it only moves 16 pips, but the strike widths are 4 pips. So, I mean, you could potentially go out no more than 4 strike prices. Then it's 11 at 11, almost nothing. April, May, June, July, August, September picks back up to 11, 17, and 11, October, November, December. Then when you do the British pound, it does around 15 between January, February, March, and April, drops down to nothing from May through August, pops back in September, October, and November, December, only 13. In that case, you want to trade predominantly January, February, March, and April. On the U.S. Canadian, you get 14 ticks up until April. Then it drops off really pretty much for the rest of the year. The USD Swiss franc, I wouldn't even suggest trading it. The USD JPY, 25 in January, 17 in February, 15 in March and April. Then it starts to drop off until October. October, it picks back up. The strike width stays constant. You know, if it's um, 4, then it's 4. If it's 5, then it's 5. Now, sometimes they will change it according to volatility. You know, if you're getting a lot of volatility in there, then they'll go in and start offering, you know, maybe 2 pip ranges. In general, you, if you're doing out of the money binaries, you have to be a lot more careful June, July, and August because you see a significant decrease in those months. And then it starts to pick back up in September with October really bringing in the volatility, which most traders know this if they've been around a while. Well, you could do a standard deviation of the ranges, or you could do an average. Um, that's up to you. I can't remember if I did. I did a standard deviation for me. I don't know if I have it here. Let's see if I can open this one. All right, so on the British pound, you have on the 12 o'clock hour, you have a standard deviation of 3. On the 5 o'clock, which is when it moves the most, you have a standard deviation of 5. So that means it can move, you know, up 35 ticks or down 35 ticks to me. Let's see if I can get that one up, Dave. Yep. That was your entry point there on gold. It's a result of a magenta peak on the 45-minute. Let's see what the close of the bar was. Close of the bar was 1199.3. You're risking less than 10 ticks, and I know you made 20 ticks on that. I mean, you look at it until you made 20 ticks on it. Thanks, Dave. What would a reasonable ratio of moves to the strike width be? I have no idea. Well, example, if average move in the hour is 8 and the strike width is 5, is that worthwhile? No, it's not worthwhile to me because I go out of the money. I can't even go out one strike price. That tells me not to trade it. You would be going in at 50-50. I don't do those at 50-50. It means, you're going in at 50, potentially making 50 if it expires at that point. Not something I'm going to do. Yeah, you would. Let's see if I've got one. Well, I don't have one. I'll bring one up, though. Let's say that between 6 and 8 a.m., the USD JPY is going to move on average 40 ticks. The USD JPY has a strike distance of 4 pips, so it's 40 divided by 4. You could potentially go all the way out to 10 strike prices. I'd probably want to keep it at 8. Is that based on a ratio or anything? Nah, more like gut feeling. So far, Crude's doing what we wanted. Those are the charts I trade. There's nothing magical about a 45-minute chart. It's just a chart I like. Yeah, I don't believe there's a magical time frame. You could do the same thing on a 15-minute chart if you wanted to. To me, what's magical is doing the same thing on the same time frames day in and day out. That's what's magical, not a particular time frame. You're welcome. I actually like to know I have 45 minutes between one bar and the next. My market reviews are done off of the 45-minute chart. Most of my trades come off 45-minute chart. I know my 45-minute chart. That's why. The only thing I don't like are tick charts because you don't get an accurate portrayal of volume. And I don't like range bars for the same reason. You're limiting the movement of one bar. And if you limit the movement, you're also limiting the volume. Yeah, I don't have none of that. I wish I did, but I don't. Yeah, I don't do straddles in the evenings at all. We don't have enough market movement. How are you going to do a straddle with no market movement? Be kind of hard, wouldn't it? The one thing that you need when you're going to straddle the market is actual market movement. The other way to do straddles is very high risk. I don't recommend it. I recommend it, and I'm not going to teach it. So, yeah, you have to have direction to do it. And again, if you're at an ATR, okay, 45-minute chart, you're at an ATR, you're at a congestion dot, and there's room there for movement. The benefit of doing the forex at night is you can actually go out into the next day, so you don't have a time crunch if you do that, but you have bigger strike widths. Instead of 4 pips, you're doing 20 pips. So that's your difference. But your buy-in time is what you're doing. And that's the most important thing sometimes is time. Do I look at order flow data? I don't need to. This is my volume indicator. There's no reason to look at it. No, it doesn't help me. I'll put it that way. Yeah, they're singing this morning. No, it's actually the birds. Got a lot of trees around me. Does everybody see why I said the Dow setup wasn't the same as it was yesterday? It looked the same unless you were looking at your higher time frames. Then you found out it wasn't the same. On Wall Street, you were the Wall Street 30. You were risking $19. So if you got 60 as a profit target, you're doing good. It's about another $13 per contract, basically. I'll go ahead and put mine in. I'm going to put it at 60 even on the Dow. On the S&P, I'm doing 22. I'll put it at 55. And on crude, I'm going to put it at the money, which is about 50. So these would be the profit targets: 50 on crude, 55 on S&P, and 60 on Wall Street. My targets are 50 on crude, 55 on S&P 500, and the Dow is at 60. And it may take all day to get there, so it is what it is. I didn't do the NASDAQ. I wasn't looking at it, Mike, so I don't know. I really don't too much like to look at things in hindsight. Forex is open all night. I didn't do any studies on the British pound or yen, and I didn't do any studies on the Aussie yen. I just did the majors. Those are really the ones that matter to me. You know, the British pound yen, you're looking at 10 pips on the strike width. On the Aussie yen, the Aussie yen's a little bit better because you're still doing the 5 pip strike. But I don't trade the British pound yen just because it's a bigger strike price. But it does move more, I'll tell you that. Anybody that's ever traded the British pound yen knows that. I think there just comes a point where you say, okay, that's enough, I can't do anymore. You're at 70 on the Dow right now, 3-minute chart, so you should get a pullback on that. See if I can move it over. This is what I'm talking about. You've got an ADX at 70. Now, there's strong selling volume in there. That is not divergence. It did not make a lower low than this. It did not come back and equal that low. So normally you would get the volume divergence before the magenta peak comes in. I did on the Dow, not the Russell. I don't trade the Russell. I only looked at things that I trade. So I did gold, crude, the Dow, the Nasdaq, the ES. I didn't do the DAX. What else? I did the Aussie dollar, the euro dollar, the British pound dollar, the USD Swiss franc, the USD Canadian, and the USD yen. Those are the ones that I did. Market review session on Thursdays. If I remember it, I'll do. I'll try. What's special about Thursday, Christian? Well, anybody that had the indicator should have been able to identify that the Dow was going to go down at the market open today. No, I'm not doing another room now. You could look at Crude and tell it was going down today. The DAX and Ninja, kinetic. CQG gives me trouble sometimes with it. There's your divergence. See it? Now that magenta peak will come in. Watch it. Yep. It just takes time for these magenta. When you are looking at a higher time frame, you better have some patience, okay? Big moves, but you better have some patience. If that gets to about there, that's where you're going to see that magenta peak come in right now. You know, 180-minute bar, I mean, that's 3 hours, you know? It's going to take some while. It'll take a minute, okay? That's what we say. It'll be a minute now. That's right. And if you really want to really think about this would have been my trade setup from yesterday, except it was to the long side. This one's to the short side. Yesterday, I did the 45-minute. Oh, well. It was just about here. I think I took this one. So this one, I went long. I can't remember what the price was. It was about right in here, though. I can tell you that. So I knew it was going to go up. This is the reverse to the downside, just different time frame. That's all. You might get your profit target on the Dow. If that number hits 60, it should bring you out of the Dow. I guess I could shrink it up so we could still see the chart. Wouldn't that be nice? Out. And we knew that at what time this morning, guys? And that wasn't my favorite trade. That one's still got a ways to go. It's got to get down to 55, which is about $15. It's already taken me out, so the S&P is still about $13 away. I do 45 minute. 45 minute is my ground chart, period. Even today, it was my grounding chart. What changed my perception? The higher time frames. Support and resistance. It doesn't matter. I'm still doing 45 minute. If I'm married to a time frame, I am married to the 45 minute chart. Why? Because it tells you exactly where price is going. Most of the time. Nothing's definitive forever anyway. Yeah, crude is just playing in a range, but your better trade is to the downside. Yeah, I can't live without my 45 minute. I can live without any time frame but my 45 minute. I can't live without it. You have a good evening, Troy. On Crude, they're everywhere. But they're all price on Crude just about, with the exception of the 720 and the 1440. I mean, it's got until 2:30 to work out, so it is what it is. Pretty much. We've already taken profit on the Dow. The ES is still working, and I would leave it where it's at. I got a profit target at 55. If it comes towards this line, gets to this line, you will have your profit target achieved. On crude right now, it's still playing in the same range it's playing in this morning, 54.40 up to about $58. Well, 57.92. I would just leave that on there. You have until 2:30 today for that to work in your favor. So I don't see any other trades I would be in. Are there any questions this morning? I'll get this video posted later today for those of you that want to go back and review it. I am still working on the market volatility report. I'll have it out soon, I hope. You will need to be on the mailing list to receive the market volatility report. Other than that, I'll be back tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Well, thank you, Mike.